After a few updates, Ghost of Yōtei has changed a lot. But have these changes really improved the game, or just worsened what already worked? Today we're going to find out what really changed after the updates. The first Ghost of Yōtei update, known as the Day 1 patch in version 1.006, arrived right at the game's launch on October 2nd, 2025, and in my view, it represents a breath of fresh air for those who were eager for a more polished experience in such an immersive samurai world. I'm always impressed when the developers at Sucker Punch invest so much in stability right off the bat, because it shows they truly care about the player who dives headfirst into the snowy landscapes of Hokkaido. Without this update, the game could have stumbled on initial flow-breaking bugs, but with it, everything flows like a sharp katana cutting the cold wind. I played Ghost of Tsushima and missed optimizations like this at the beginning, so seeing this here makes me think that Yōtei is destined to be an even more refined sequel, where every detail counts to build that atmosphere of revenge and honor that captivates us. In terms of performance and stability, this update shines with multiple improvements in environmental rendering, meaning exploring the vast plains and frozen forests now runs smoother. Without those annoying stutters during a horse chase or an epic confrontation, they fixed problems with ray tracing, ensuring that the lighting remains consistent and performant. Something I love because it transforms starry nights and sunsets into breathtaking visual moments, without sacrificing frames per second on the PS5. For me, as a fan of games that value technical immersion, these adjustments prevent the hardware from complaining during missions with many characters, and the rare crashes while idle or loading saves have been eliminated, making long sessions, like my nightly marathons, more reliable and less frustrating. It's as if Sucker Punch had listened to the beta testers and said, "Let's make this impeccable from the start." And I applaud that because nothing kills the hype of an open world like unexpected crashes. Speaking of gameplay, the patch fixes a ton of bugs that could have ruined the fun, such as impact audio that now perfectly matches the types of surfaces, making every strike on snow or wood sound authentic and satisfying. Mini-games like bamboo cutting and Zini Hajiki were bugged, but now flow smoothly, and I personally find this crucial because these light moments break the tension of Atsu's revenge narrative, allowing us to breathe and connect more with the feudal Japanese world. Delays in grappling with allies have been fixed. Transparent pumpkins in the kunai mission are gone, and camera transitions in interrogations and combat have become smoother, avoiding irritating pops that take focus away from the fluid action that defines the series. In my opinion, this elevates the combat to a personal level, where every duel and stealth kill feels organic, as if I were truly controlling a determined Onimusha. And without these fixes, the game could feel unfinished in key parts. The balancing adjustments are another highlight that won me over, especially for weapons for lethal difficulty, where they refined the difficulty so that it is neither too easy nor extremely punishing. Stealth kills with weapons other than the katana have been balanced and the bugs corrected, which I think is brilliant because it encourages experimentation without breaking the immersion. And I personally love it when a game rewards varied playing styles, making me feel like a versatile ghost in the shadows. Missions now avoid dialogues being cut off by player actions or NPCs, and bugs that blocked progress have been eliminated, improving navigation in mission areas and even preventing the horse from interrupting important cutscenes. The animation improvements are profound and transform cinematics into more emotional experiences, with corrections for natural character behaviors and fixes for clipping that could previously break the illusion. I always value it when animations flow like a dance of swords, and here they've polished that so that interactions with allies and enemies feel alive, especially in combat against leaders or during hunts with the companion wolf, whose abilities have been adjusted for better synergy. Personally, this makes me appreciate Atsu's journey more, because refined animations convey pain, anger, and redemption palpably, preventing key scenes from seeming robotic, and I imagine that without the patch, these parts would lose impact in such a personal story of loss and retribution. The update brings significant polishes, such as corrections in mission areas for better flow and navigation, and preventions of random enemies appearing during fox follows, which preserves the exploratory tranquility I love in games like this. Economy and loot of common metals have been balanced, reducing excessive tutorials in camping, and adding access to the photo mode during camps is a master stroke, allowing for capturing serene moments without breaking the rhythm. It's these details that make the world of Yōtei feel alive and responsive, and in my opinion, the patch transforms a good launch into a great one, where the environment is not just a backdrop, but a supporting character in Atsu's revenge. Reflecting on the whole, this first update is not just a list of fixes. It's a commitment to excellence that makes me recommend Yōtei, with my eyes closed to fans of samurais and open worlds, because it fixes what could have been weak and amplifies what was already strong. I feel that Sucker Punch learned from Tsushima and delivered something more robust from the cradle. And personally, playing post-patch, the game gained a layer of polish that keeps me glued to the screen for hours, exploring every snowy corner with a renewed sense of wonder. The second update, called 1.007 for Ghost of Yōtei, arrived shortly after the game's launch, functioning more as a hotfix than a classic content expansion. This update primarily focused on fixing a rare stability issue that was causing crashes in specific situations, such as during long sessions and at certain loading moments. For me, it is a sign of responsibility from the developers to have acted quickly. As a game as anticipated and visually complex as Ghost of Yōtei needs to ensure a fluid experience from the start to maintain audience engagement at its initial peak. In addition to the stability fix, patch 1.007 also brought texture updates to some game assets, which helps to smooth overall performance. Although it seems like a technical and minor detail, improving textures and remembering that the game is heavy due to its graphical ambition makes a big difference in preventing stutters and performance drops, especially in more loaded missions or in areas with many dynamic visual elements. I consider these improvements valuable, as they show care for the immersive experience in detailed spaces and scenarios that are a separate attraction of the game. The size of the patch also reinforces this idea of a specific adjustment. At only about 260 megabytes, this update is much smaller than the launch patch 1.06, which was almost 9 gigabytes and brought several new features and deeper corrections. I like this studio strategy of first releasing a robust patch to correct the main flaws perceived until the launch and then following up with focused hotfixes that ensure long-term stability and small visual refinements, keeping the game technically healthy soon after entering the market. Despite the relative simplicity of 1.007, it is part of a larger, continuous work that also involves patch 1.006, which introduced several essential changes, such as improvements in environmental rendering, lighting correction in ray tracing, optimizations in photo mode, and adjustments to bugs in animations, minigames, and combat. When I look at update 1.007, I see that it is the final complement to what was a very extensive and ambitious Day 1 patch. This makes me more confident that the developers are truly committed to polishing the game after launch and ensuring that the experience is as bug-free as possible for most players. It is also interesting to note that the update brought indirect improvements to gameplay, such as optimization in missions with many characters on screen and fluidity in interface elements, such as vendor menus and maps, as well as visual updates to trophy and activity icons, which helps to improve the clarity and usability of the game interface. For me, these subtle changes make a noticeable difference in immersion and in this type of game where attention to visual details is a strong point. Finally, from a personal point of view, I think that patch 1.07, even being small and technical, is a good example of a modern game that follows the line of continuous maintenance, something essential in current major releases. Despite not bringing striking new features or additional content, it reaffirms the priority of offering a stable and visually consistent experience, which I consider essential to prevent technical frustration from hindering the fun in a game so focused on atmosphere and refined action. In summary, the 1.007 update for Ghost of Yōtei is a careful hotfix that focuses on polishing the most specific problems with stability and visuals, offering players a smoother experience right after launch. For those who value uninterrupted gameplay and immersion in the game's detailed environments, this update reinforces confidence in the quality of the title and the commitment of the developers to keep the game in shape, even in the face of the natural challenges of such ambitious launches. It's the kind of attention I appreciate as a fan of games that intensely blend technique and narrative. The 1.08 update for Ghost of Yōtei, released on October 4th, 2025, is the third major update after the game's launch and focuses mainly on correcting critical bugs that compromise the gaming experience rather than adding new functionalities. The main highlight is the correction of a bug that permanently stalled the mission A Fiery Consequence when the player entered through the side access of Matsumai and quickly left to start another mission. A frustrating and progress-blocking problem that certainly caused a lot of headaches for players advancing in the story. In addition, rare crashes were fixed that could occur in various situations, such as during missions in Wolf Den and Gun Valley, camera movement with the lock-on system active in combats, and even when the game remained inactive for more than an hour. showing an effort by the developers to stabilize the gameplay to avoid abrupt interruptions. Another area that received important improvements was the game's visuals and interface. The update fixed bugs in the artistic assets of the Frontier Valley, specifically in a sanctuary that previously disappeared before the character could interact with it, and adjusted the presentation so that the correct art was displayed after the proper interaction. Additionally, Photo Mode underwent a correction where the letterbox bars of the Frontier scenario overlapped interface elements. A small detail, but one that greatly interferes with the immersion and the desire to explore the game's visual options. Something I personally applaud a lot, given that in action and adventure games with a rich setting, the photographic experience ends up becoming an artistic extension of the gameplay. A point that caught my attention in this patch is the care with audio errors and small performance improvements. Sound problems can go far beyond mere annoyance because poor audio generates disconnection, and sometimes loss of important references in combat or narrative. This update sought to align these details, showing that Sucker Punch Productions is not neglecting the game's polishing, something I highly value in newly released games, as it demonstrates respect for the player and the final product. Despite the update being primarily focused on corrections, it is far from being just a patch. For me, this is the responsible and mature action of a studio that cares about the franchise's legacy and wants to ensure that Ghost of Yōtei is enjoyed in the best possible way. Correcting bugs that stall critical missions and stability problems makes all the difference, especially in a game that has the fluidity of combat and exploration as one of its greatest qualities. The performance improvement also helps players with PS5 consoles, ensuring fewer frame drops and a smoother experience in combat and exploration of open regions. However, I cannot help but express a touch of frustration, as I am one of those who would love to see more unprecedented content being added in this update, such as weapons, side missions, or gameplay variations that would further expand the game's horizons. This limitation in bringing only corrections is understandable in the post-launch phase, but a more robust patch could have been an opportunity to reinforce the game's appeal and keep the hype alive among the community. Even so, recognizing the effort to correct the major flaws is essential and demonstrates a real commitment to the audience. Personally, I think that some of the technical corrections, especially those related to crashes and bugs that stalled missions, transform this update into one of the most important so far, because they elevate the game from a problematic state to something more reliable, less frustrating, and this puts Ghost of Yōtei on a more stable path to be enjoyed without fear. This makes me think that, even with some valid criticisms regarding the game, such as its somewhat linear and repetitive design, Sucker Punch is listening to its audience and adjusting the experience, which makes me more confident to continue following the development of future patches and perhaps, who knows, an expansion. The 1.008 update is a correct step to stabilize Ghost of Yōtei by correcting critical progression bugs and crashes that broke immersion, in addition to small adjustments in art and performance that, although not new features, are essential to ensure a more fluid and pleasant experience. It's the kind of patch that, for players passionate about the game's proposal, serves as a sign that the title will be supported seriously and that the community is not being abandoned. For me, this care reinforces the game's potential and makes me excited for future updates, even though I still want to see more new content besides corrections. The fourth update for Ghost of Yōtei, known as Patch 1.009 and released on October 10, 2025, arrives as a helping hand for those who, like me, have dived headfirst into Atsu's journey of revenge through the mystical north of Japan. Soon after the game's blockbuster launch on October 2nd, the first patches dealt with initial problems. But this one focuses on stability and corrections that truly save crucial missions, preventing the player from getting stuck in frustrating loops or unexpected crashes, which left me relieved because I hate it when an epic narrative is interrupted by silly bugs. Personally, I saw the Gambler's Den as one of those tense moments full of risk and reward. But the crash with the bears attacking the Ronin and allies was ruining everything, turning a chaotic scene into an irritating black screen. Now, with this correction, I feel that Sucker Punch is listening to the community and polishing what was already a masterpiece of fluid combat. It's as if they know that for a game that emphasizes stealth and precise confrontations, any instability steals the immersion, and I appreciate how this update restores confidence to explore Izo without fear of losing progress. At the heart of this update, the bug where the horse continued running beyond Atsu after being summoned was one of those details that deeply irritated me during travel across the snowy and volcanic map, making the riding mechanics less intuitive and more frustrating than they should be in such a beautiful and alive world. I always thought the horse's movement was an extension of the freedom that Atsu represents as an Onimusha. But this glitch turned an essential tool into a joke, and seeing it fixed makes me want to go back and redo some side explorations just to feel the natural flow again. Personally, this reminds me of how small adjustments can elevate a game from good to unforgettable, especially in a title that balances visceral action with moments of contemplation in the mountains of Hokkaido. Now, with the horse obeying properly, chases and escapes gain more authenticity, and I feel more connected to Atsu's journey of revenge. Another vital correction in this second update is the problem with the save file in A Memory of Impressions, where reloading a checkpoint after switching between past and present blocked progress, something that could ruin hours of emotional investment in a narrative that uses time swapping so innovatively and poetically. I love how the game plays with memories and flashbacks to deepen the lore of the Yōtei 6, but this bug made me anxious every time I paused to reflect, fearing losing momentum. Now, resolved, I feel greater freedom to pause and absorb the story without paranoia. From a personal point of view, this elevates the replay experience. Because I plan to revisit these missions to hunt for trophies and collectibles, and knowing that the saves are solid motivates me to dive deeper into Atsu's mythology as a vengeful spirit. Sucker Punch hit the nail on the head by prioritizing this, proving that they understand how much narrative stability matters in a game that mixes Japanese folklore with high-level gameplay. The disappearance of coins in the Zen Hajiki minigame after acquiring the Dragonfly armor was a visual error that turned a casual diversion into an invisible treasure hunt. And I laughed at the irony of such a visually stunning game, having this stumble on something simple like a gambling table. Personally, these minigames are welcome breaks between intense battles, and the bug made me skip them, losing chances to win useful items. With the removal of the duplicate second table and the restored visibility, I now see value in returning to the gambler's den to test my luck and integrate these elements more into Atsu's routine. This makes me think about how updates like this keep the game fresh, encouraging the community to share strategies without technical frustrations. And I'm already excited for videos where I highlight how these fixes improve accessibility for newcomers. In the end, it's a reminder that perfection comes in layers, and this correction adds an extra shine to the atmosphere of risk and reward that defines Ghost of Yōtei. During the Gambler's Den mission, inspecting a jar and dying instantly was a cruel progression bug that caught me by surprise in my first playthrough, cutting the flow of a sequence that mixes stealth with social interactions brilliantly. I felt betrayed by the game at that moment, as if Atsu, the ruthless warrior, was punished for harmless curiosity. But now with the fix, this invisible trap is gone, allowing me to appreciate the environmental design without abrupt interruptions. Personally, this reinforces my admiration for Sucker Punch in responding quickly to community feedback, making the world of Izo more reliable and immersive, where every object can hide secrets without unfairly punishing the player. It's the kind of change that makes me recommend the game with even more enthusiasm, knowing that the experience evolves for the better. In the Kitsune's fate, getting stuck in the hallucination, state with Oyuki frozen and the menu inaccessible, was a nightmare that turned a mystical and emotional mission into an endless wait for a reload that didn't always work. And I hated how this broke the supernatural tension that the game builds so well. Now corrected, I feel like I can revisit this quest with new eyes, absorbing the themes of destiny and illusion without the fear of freezing, which is crucial for a title that uses folkloric elements to enrich Atsu's revenge. From the heart, this fix touches me because I value narratives that flow without technical barriers, and seeing Sucker Punch polish, this leaves me grateful for a game that respects the player's time. It's a small victory, but one that adds to the whole, making Ghost of Yōtei a more cohesive and captivating journey. Finally, the corrections in missions like Spirits of Teshio, Ridge, Master of the Shamisen, and A Memory of Spring, from the freeze in the spyglass, to the block in the final cutscene and the infinite memory loop, close gaps that could discourage anyone immersed in Yōtei's vast open world. I have always argued that post-launch updates are what separates good games from legends, and this patch 1.009, as the second official update, proves that Sucker Punch is committed to delivering a polished experience, allowing me to focus on the mastery of combat and the beauty of the landscapes instead of glitches. Personally, this inspires optimism for future content, such as exploring 100% of the map now without fear, and I applaud how they transform complaints into improvements that enrich Atsu's legend for all of us. Overall, this update is not just a fix. It's a step that solidifies Ghost of Yōtei as a must-play in 2025. Well, that was the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and see you next time.
A homestead taken over by Saito's men. Get on with it!
Let's test your steel! She's a ghost! What are you? Prepare yourself!